Hi, Jeff Lawton here. I'm going to take you to a very pretty site in a cold climate in Vermont, Ben Fulks Permaculture Demonstration Site Education Center, where they even have cold climate rice paddies, aquaculture, cold climate food forests, small animal systems, and a very beautiful system. We're here in a cold climate and our slopes are slightly southwest, slightly to the west, slightly to the south, bit of a ridge line, and there's base rock here. So there's quite a lot of rocky slope. It's not what you call an agriculturally ideal site, but that has some great advantage for creating a diversity of slope, a diversity of terraces, and the thermal mass of the rock gives you that heat gain. Because we're talking cold climate now. And that's where we can get some interesting effects. When we design in diversity, as long as we can put the diversity of angle, slope, sun angle, it makes a real difference with a bit of heat gain, thermal mass from the rocks, everything starts to work out. And we can extend our seasonal food from summer to winter storage, and a few applications, thermal mass of water, and everything starts to increase in potential, and it ends up being, especially in summer, a very, very beautiful looking scene. Here we have a hand-built timber house, nice passive solar. We've got echinacea in the garden, mixtures of plants all around us. There are rock terraces that trap the heat and give us those extra solar aspects. Tomatillo here, there's Jerusalem artichoke and other perennials. We have a whole mixture of food crops around us that are getting reflected light off the pond, and that extra heat gain late in the afternoon when the rocks are stacking in the temperature, they're still warm and they're going to stay warm into the night. This gives us an extended season. We've got fruit trees, berry crops, and all kinds of perennial and annual mixes together, so we really have an extended season on food that can be stored, it can be dried, it can be processed, because here we have deep snows in winter. So there is still diversity, but there's also a special element of storage. So storage and extension of yield is something we're really thinking about. All the herbs and flowers are as diverse in colour, shape and form as can be included anywhere. This temperate climate is one that has real summer diversity, and the stability of water flows and nutrient capture is captured in these elements, and when they go down to the ground, it's then stored in the soil. And it's the soil fertility where we get the best advantage in these cold climates. This is where the soil is fertile, deep and rich. This is a hugel bed on contour. It functions like a swell, absorbing water. What we have here is a mound that's covering woody material. This whole area has been cleared. A lot of it's been used for timber for the buildings on the site. Stumps are still here, but surplus woody material has been buried under the soil in these mounds, and this will break down over winter, so you're getting winter decomposition. And in these cold climates there's no growth really in winter, all the growth happens in summer. So after the decomposition you're getting the growth of trees that have been planted along here. So there's a whole section here of hugel beds recovering the forest in the theme of productivity, as a benefit to the property's use. Now, this is ideal, it's an ideal system for cold climates because your decomposition happens in winter and your growth happens in summer. There's all kinds of cover crop seeds have been put down here. There's buckwheat and there's turnips, there's clovers, there's different ground cover herbs and climbers and creepers that have been put down on the ground here, with a mixture of fruit trees and bushes as well. So it's all going to build organic matter with great diversity initially, just to actually build the soil and start the decomposition process, adding lots and lots of nutrient and elements into the system. So we're already in an influencing situation in the direction that we want it to go. This may look like a bit of a chaotic mess, and it is really, but it's out of the chaos that we end up with a controlled, layered system of absolute climax stability. A year later, it starts to look like this, and we're really starting to stack up some biomass now, and we've got something we can really work with. We can gild our trees out of this amazing system. 2 years and beyond, and you're up into canopy forest, and you're really starting to get some shelter now, and you can carve out your niches for sheltered fruit tree extension. These temperate systems are so exquisite. They're so pretty, they have so much surplus. This is the way to live. This is the top pond, and this is where water catchment starts. We've got some beautiful rock features here, and in times of rain, this is actually little gentle waterfalls, and the stack of water starts from here, increasing fertility as it goes down. Here we have a shingle roof, classic pole structure, cold climate, typical. We've got a sauna right here, and the wood's ready to heat the sauna. A nice wooden platform and a lovely pond to cool off in if you want to plunge at the end of your hot sauna. This platform has heaved up with the ice extension. The heaving of ice, the expansion of ice in the ground can lift your footings, heave your footings out of the ground. You have to make sure they're deep enough and they're put in carefully so that you don't get a heaving effect on buildings and foundations of structures. This is heaved up out of the ground almost a foot. Look how this flooring is heaved up here. This is the level it's supposed to be, and yet it's lifted all of that up. That's the power of the ice, and we can put that to our advantage, but we don't want it working against us when it comes to structures. Now, that can be put to your advantage out in the field. You can put in minor glacial events through heaving on contour rip lines so that you remineralize your soil like minor glaciers on contour. That's something that we can do right across landscape when we're bringing landscape back into condition. Here we are in the aquaculture pond, and I can freely feed these fish just with natural food from the environment. This is fast food permaculture style. One of those little baits with a hook in it, and we've got a meal. Absolutely fresh, straight out of a natural system. This is easy to design. It's easy to implement. You end up with an abundant system in amongst all these polycultural elements, and we can design it for you, we can design it for anyone, we can teach you to design. This is truly abundance in food production in a beautiful, beautiful setting. So, this is a landscape in Vermont that was completely deforested to graze sheep, and it was the world's largest wool producer at one time, the largest overgrazed sheep system in history at a certain point in time, and that was the main responsibility for degrading the hill country of Vermont. Here we have a system where we're reforesting with sheep by selectively grazing them through the succession of trees that will bring back the abundance. Here we have hill country farming in polyculture that's highly productive, highly secure, on land that most people wouldn't even consider for agriculture. They're walking off the flat, fertile, deep soil plains and considering it not viable for farming because of the flood events. Yet here, we're reforesting with the damaging element. By selectively grazing in the right cycles, we're putting back the tree systems that will fertilize back into a diversity of perennial production. That's typically permaculture design, elements put into the right cycles, in the right sequences, in the right area relationships, give you an abundant result.
One of the happy accidents of just trying a whole lot of different things on your landscape and experimenting and seeing what's possible. So we started to see if we could grow rice about 5 years ago, even though we weren't aware of anyone growing rice in this cold of a climate anywhere in the world, or certainly not in North America. We tried it, and it appears to be a very viable crop to grow. So one of the benefits of just trying things, you figure out new possibilities, and it turns out rice is a viable crop in even zone 4, North America, a place that gets negative 30 Celsius every winter. It's a long season, but we start it under cold frames. And it's just like growing a long season vegetable like onions or squash. Yet it's a staple that can store for years. And the really exciting thing is it can be grown in paddies and in depressions, in inundated situations, where you can store and capture all of the silt and all of the runoff on a landscape, rather than a convex shape. We're in a depression, so we're in a retention basin, but we're producing a food crop. So really, rice in paddies is just an edible stormwater detention basin. That's all we're working with here. So you have a system that, instead of losing nutrients throughout the growing season constantly and have forced us to replace the nutrients, we're in a system that's just accruing nutrients every year because it's a depression. It's the detention basin. It's capturing nutrients, which makes it a very wet place in this climate. But rice is one of these amazing crops that can take periodic inundation. It doesn't need it, but it can deal with it. So we have a place where we're turning subsoil, gray, lifeless subsoil, into dark topsoil. You can see the gray below and the darkness forming up above, just as a matter of course, while also growing food. So we're enhancing soil while getting a yield. Instead of typical agriculture, we're mining the soil to get a yield. We're getting both benefits here, and that's the beauty of an integrated, ecological agriculture. In this situation, it's a staple food crop in a stormwater detention basin, also called a rice paddy. Turns out you can do this in very, very cold climates. You don't have to be in tropical or subtropical, Asia to grow rice paddies, to grow rice in paddies.
With systems like this, where we gather water at the top of the property, swale to pond, pond overflow to terrace gardens, more swales, more ponds, more terrace gardens, ponds to swales to overflow ponds, gathering nutrient with ducks into paddies, fertigation of productive paddy systems on again through gardens, paddies, ponds, swales. It's a matter of slowing up water so it takes the longest path over the most distance, with the longest time moving as slowly as possible, with the most passive friction, rubbing up against as much productive diversity along the way to our advantage, increasing the efficiency through extending the entropy of a major element like water. That's crucial in design, and we can do it in any climate and extend our food security. Solar heat pump glasshouse, essential in these cold climates. This one's double glazed. It's got grow beds here with quite warm climate crops here. We've got chilies and tomatoes growing really well. In a climate that'd be kind of difficult to get them right through season outside, but so it's not just got those uses. We're actually, early season vegetables can be grown out here in the springtime, get an early start on things. We can get some of our tree crops going. We've got elderberry cuttings here going. There's quite a few things happening. It's also got an insulated wall with a thermal mass, so we can transit heat from here into the building next door from a lower level. Heat rises, automatically flows straight into the building. So we've got a growing system, a seasonal extension system, and we've got a free passive solar heat pump. So a whole set of advantages, multi-functions, all in one element. Small wood stove here, small amount of wood, a little bit of ambient temperature over here with the long chimney. Just add the heat to start a growing season that bit earlier or extend it that bit longer. Small addition, simple technology, clever design. We're below grade of floor line, and the thermal mass here is what's going to get warm and stay warm, and that'll transfer into the building. That's how we need them designed. Meyer lemon growing here in a real cold climate, but can be grown as a potted tree inside a glass house like this. Here we have 47% humidity and 95 degrees. That's why we can grow an extension of season in this glass house. They definitely work. And in here, we have an insulated room underground. And this is the cold storage. This is where all the food gets stored over winter, nicely chilled with natural ground temperature. Well, that's cold climate for you. And with these elements, we can live comfortably, we can live healthy. This is a very secure climate to live in with good permaculture design.